clear about New York City schools. The other day you said, this is the city's decision, they have an agreement at 3%. Today you said, well, I might have to impose an orange zone and I might have to close the schools, which an orange zone does. So what's going on? Does the city still have the ability to close its schools? Are you now taking control and saying that you have the power to make this decision? And for the millions of parents who want to know, are the schools going to open tomorrow in New York City?
All right. First of all, let's try not to be obnoxious and offensive in your tone, because you're 100% wrong. These laws have all been in effect for months. I've always said, we set initial parameters, and then the school district picked a percent within those parameters. New York City picked 3%. We announced the orange zone law over a month ago. I don't know if you were here or if you were paying attention, but that has been in effect for over a month. It always said, if by the state's numbers you hit 3%, the schools close. What's going on here is nothing that the law hasn't said for over a month. We then had the test out procedures. If you were paying attention, you would have known we closed the schools in New York City 2 weeks ago. Remember when we did an orange zone and a red zone in Brooklyn and Queens, and we closed the schools? Don't you remember that?
It was 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're now going to override. We did it already. That's the law, an orange zone and a red zone. Follow the facts.
I'm still confused.
Well, then you're confused.
I'm confused, and
Then I'll tell you what, Jimmy.
Parents are still confused as well. The schools
Oh,
in New
they're
York
not
City
confused.
tomorrow.
You're confused.
No, I think
Read
parents
the
are
law.
very confused as well.
Read the law, and you won't be confused.
But Governor,
Go ahead.
following Jimmy's question, are the schools going to be open tomorrow?
The schools are open by state law.
But will they be open tomorrow? That's the question. I think Jimmy's correct in asking that question. I don't think it's obnoxious at all.
Well, I don't really care what you think. Of course, you agree with him because you're in the same business with him. The schools, by state law, well, what is the answer to your question? What is the answer to your question?
I don't know what the answer is. I'm
Yes, you
asking
do.
You said
When
last
does the
week-
state close the schools?
When you get to an orange zone, which you're suggesting could happen, but is not necessarily happening by tomorrow.
So then what are you asking? You just answered your own question.
The other week
But on
you
one
said,
hand- on one
Excuse
hand-
me.
But on one hand, you have granted Bill de Blasio the kind of oversight of his schools, and there are rumors that the number in New York City will rise above 3%, which would trigger closing of schools. Now, you have just said that an orange zone could be in the offing for the entirety of New York City, which would also close schools, but your number is 2.5. So I guess just the point blank question is, are schools going to be open tomorrow in New York
Let's
City?
do it again for you, because maybe gets confusing over the days and nights. Schools set their own, 700 school districts, they all set their own number. That's the number. Unless they fall into a microcluster. The microcluster overrides the local rules. Yellow, orange, red. If it's Buffalo, I don't even know the Buffalo closing number for schools. But the Buffalo schools close in that orange zone, right? Why? Because it's an orange zone and it's over 3%. Well, maybe Buffalo had a rule of 4% or 5% or 6%. I don't know, doesn't matter. If it goes over 3% in an orange zone, because now it's saying the decision isn't just about a school, it's about a school in an intensely infected community. with a family that's infected and a candy store that has a high infection rate, on a bus route that has a high infection rate. So the microclusters override the normal locally set school infection rate.
Why didn't you close the schools in
Right?
Erie County
Excuse
last
me.
week? You were over 3%.
Excuse me, right?
I understand the state law overrides the city's decision-making on this. I do
And no,
understand.
no, not city. Any local school district, so it just happened in Buffalo, any local school district in a microcluster zone, because that's now a highly infected zone. The schools can remain open in an orange zone, but they have to do additional testing.
Understood. On a larger point, when you're talking about microclusters, those are obviously supposed to be kind of limited geographic areas. New York City is obviously not a limited geographic area, nor is it a limited population center. How would that qualify as a microcluster? Why is that not just a regional shutdown?
Microcluster is not spatially defined. Microcluster was as opposed to statewide action or regional action.
But is that not a region, New York City, with 9
No,
million people in it?
Long Island and Westchester would be within the region. So microcluster was, I guess your point about the connotation of micro.
Well, because you said that there are 10 regions in the state, and one of those regions is New York City. So if you're going to shut New York City down to an extent with lesser restrictions under an orange zone, that is by ipso facto a regional shutdown, is it
Well,
not?
yeah, but the micro is to distinguish from statewide or normally region-wide. So Erie is not, we're not doing all of Western New York. It's a micro. If the mayor said, okay, the mayor said 3%. If the schools hit 3% in the city, I expect the mayor, who has said 57 times, if they hit 3%, we will close them. That is in conformance.
I'm asking for reaction to that schools will be closed in New York City.
Oh, I'm sorry, say that
The
again?
chancellor has announced to principals that schools will be closing temporarily in New York City.
So the mayor's saying it hit 3%?
The chancellor has said that in emails to principals that the schools will be closed temporarily, yes. So I just wanted a reaction from you, the state's.
But that is what the mayor has always said. And remember, it's not, the mayor said, when I say the mayor said, it's not actually technically accurate. We went through a very formal process where I said consult with the parents, make them part of it, have web chats, have webinars, because you can't just by fiat say the school's open or the school's closed. It only works if the parents are willing to send the children. So make it an inclusive collective process. I mandated that the school district consult with the parents and have webinars, et cetera, and answer all the questions. So that 3%, the mayor said, in my opinion, in a collaborative with the parents. And that was the agreement, and the agreement should be honored. So, and if it is 3%, then I understand exactly.
I understand the mechanics of it, but my question for you is like the closing of New York City schools, what does that say about the state's broader progress? You have touted the state's progress for months and months and months. This would appear to be a setback. How do you feel about that?
I mean, your microcluster strategy is not working at this point to curb the statewide spread. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well,
Are we having broader restrictions at this point? I mean, the cluster strategy has largely failed.
Let's not talk your characterizations, okay? And your adverbs. Let's talk fact. The whole world is going up, right? The whole world. Every state in the nation is going up, right? So success becomes what? How you're doing relative to everybody else. That's what success becomes. Success is not, are you defying reality?
Does that mean more statewide closure?
Excuse me. Are you defying reality? It's how are you doing compared to everybody else? We are 4th in the United States of America. Come to me with anything else that we're 4th in the United States of America after having had the highest infection rate in the United States of America. New Yorkers are doing a great job, and don't demean them, because the entire world is going up. It's disrespectful to New Yorkers. Of course they are, because they're going up on the world. If you're on the planet,